Okay. I know it's been a long day. We're going to do the last panel. Can I please ask Drs. Bluthenthal, Shoptaw, Wheeler, and Wyatt to join us? We will... I thought you were coming up. Dr. Wyatt has to leave, so I'm sorry. Junior investigators that are well-trained. For the few survivors left, can I have you introduce yourself very briefly, Dr. Bluthenthal?
I think they're telling us these batteries are done.
Good afternoon. Happy to be here. My name is Ricky Bluthenthal. I'm a sociologist and a professor in the Department of Preventive Medicine at the Keck School of Medicine at USC.
And I'm Darrell Wheeler. I'm the Associate Dean for Research and Community Partnerships and an Associate Professor, not for much longer, at the Hunter College School of Social Work. I just finished my review for promotion to full.
Congratulations.
And I'm Steve Shoptaw. I am a professor and vice chair for academic affairs in the Department of Family Medicine here at UCLA, and I'm also a professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Biobehavioral Sciences.
So thank you. One of the things that we'd like to end on is talking about the role of junior investigators in HIV/AIDS research, defining research, academic roles, and making a research career. And Darrell, Dr. Wheeler, one of the things that I really enjoyed about your presentation was the emphasis on isolation. I, for one, am in a department that does not necessarily appreciate the area of research that I do. You know, a focus on HIV/AIDS, a focus on community research. And so for myself, while I may have collaborators in the community or in other departments, I very much feel isolated in my own world. So how do we create a setting where junior investigators who, in order for them to be successful, needs the support of their department, needs the support of senior mentors when that support doesn't exist?
For the few, the brave, and the remaining. When I think about the environment of a unit or a department, there are at least 4 areas that the person should be paying attention to and thinking about their own survival. There are human resource issues, and those human resource issues are about staffing. How many people? Is it the right institution for you? Is it the right match? There are political issues, the issues of how do politics get played out, and asking questions. And I guess what I'm supposing is that it's not really about having one person to support you, but you going into this environment with the understanding that you have to have multiple perspectives. There are the emotive aspects of what you do. Is it nurturing to your soul? If it's not nurturing to your soul, it's almost impossible to sustain that for the long haul because the price is just too expensive. And then there are issues related to just the pure academic process of meeting the expectations. And so if you start to see those 4, you start to align yourself with different people who can start to support you in different areas. And some of those people may be in your department and some may be outside of the department. And I just find that is a healthier approach for me and one I support for our junior faculty.
Would anyone else like to add?
Well, I mean, I guess the only other thing I would add is, maybe it's more than one thing, but it's to understand how score is kept. So is it grant money? Is it grant money in publications? Is it grant money, publications, teaching? And then to make sure that you're doing better than everybody else. I mean, that isn't always possible to do, but, you know, I think that in the same way that, like, a conference like this, for me, I really love being at, you know, first because there's lots of black faces, but second because there's that urgency. Like we don't, when I go to conference, there's no urgency. There's the opposite of urgency. I find that, you know, that is very helpful to me. And, you know, and I'll be energized for 6 months just based on my 2 hours here. You know, and I think we have to keep that in mind that, you know, we have to compete. We just have to compete. And we have to, you know, do as best as we humanly can but make sure that we understand, what the score, how the score's kept, and so that then when we have these moments of review, we're not anxious, because we know how scores kept, and we've done our, we've made our contribution to our scorecard.
Yeah, these are great comments. I know there's also a couple other things that I think I would add, and that is to be flexible. Life isn't lived in an academic review cycle. There are many roads to get to where we are, and I would bet that there's very little shared variance between Dr. Wheeler's and Dr. Blutenthal's and my roads. I mean, I'm probably the least academic among us, and so, yet eventually, if you have that passion, you can get there, and recognize that a road that looks like a digression can be brought back in the back end, and you can even shine greater than had you been on that straight path. The productivity is really important. Another thing that I think is really important is something I like to call mentorship dating, and the whole idea that mentors are, mentors one day, but the next day they'll take your liver out. And you've really got to know when that knife is coming out before it shows, and get out of the room. Being able to know when it's time to cash out and go find that next mentor. But mentorship is vital, absolutely vital. This is one of the most codified professions. It's been around for 2,000 years. The progression from assistant to full is a very well-documented process, but how you make each of those steps requires somebody who can be selfless with you and sit there and say, dude, you gotta stop this, or you need to do something else, or do more of this. And that's a very rare person to find. But when you do find that person, you hang on to them, because that's really can be the difference between success and not.
And it may not be, like I said, it may not be somebody at your home institution.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, it's critical. And I think the other thing is one must be willing to risk on self. If I won't invest in self, I mean, I've been at 3 different academic institutions, and public and private, and changes have sometimes been my own volition, and sometimes been because I saw the knife coming. And, you don't grow up south side of Chicago and not know to tell when the knife is coming. And, I got out the way, and you live to tell the story. Sometimes people hang on because of the lure of the academy, and I think that seductiveness of the academy sometimes is a bit much, and we need to be very realistic, and some people should be cutting their losses and moving into other spheres, because, sometimes the movement allows you to live for another day to come back and do battle later.
So one of the things that I repeatedly hear is the importance of mentorship. For junior faculty, mentorship is obviously important, but what happens when your mentors are actually on the periphery? How can you access the resources that you need when you're looking and watching your mentors deal with the same challenges that you have to face?
Well, one approach, would be to, invest in many relationships. I mean, I think that's probably the safest way to handle that. It's like the market. You're just sort of hedging your risk. You're hedging your bet. So, and the great thing about the way science is conducted nowadays is with the heavy emphasis on interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary research and geographic reach. You don't have to, as Dr. Wheeler said, you don't have to have a mentor at your institution. It's helpful to have one, but you don't have to. You can have a mentor at other places, and allow people, to envision your life a little bit as a matrix where, you're relating to people in different ways, and some people you're helping in more at one point or another, and they're helping you at another time. And someone helps you understand your institution's particular culture, but someone else helps you figure out how to crack a leading journal or how to break down a review panel so you can get funded. So, I mean, I think part of it is just make as many friends as possible, both vertically, horizontally, you know, whatever, so that you have a nice web of people who think well of you and have different experiences that you can draw upon. So maybe in some ways the issue is less mentorship and more just rich relationships with a variety of people, so, you know, and then be ready to flip. You know, sometimes you're the mentor, sometimes you're the mentee, but be open to those changes.